And we'll direct, also during the session, I'll direct questions to the panelists one at a time to keep flow. So I'll just kind of call the panelists, have them answer the question, and then we'll keep going from there. We also, the panelist who may be joining us today is Diego Rodriguez from Contra Casa in Guatemala. Rebecca's checking in with him right now, just to make sure time zone wise he got that all correct. So to get us started, I had a little bit of an opening poll just to kind of see who's joining us today, as well as what you're kind of hoping to get out of the session today. So I'm going to launch that poll now. So if you go ahead and answer in there. Okay, I'll give it a little 15 more seconds. Okay, I'm ending the poll. Okay, so it looks like we have a wide variety of people joining us today. So campus partners, former staff trip advisors, former student trip participants and leaders. So a wide variety of people who have participated in Buck-I-SERV in one way or another, and we're happy to have you all here. And what people are most interested in learning about today, it seems like far and away, what people are most interested in learning about is how community partners are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So also some interest in socially distant and virtual service opportunities with community partners. So that's great. Thank you all for taking that poll. And we'll have one more at the very end, just to kind of follow up on anything we learned today. So to get us started, I will give our community partners a chance to introduce themselves, their organization, kind of the work that they do, and then also, talking about how COVID-19 has impacted their current operations. So Hannah, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah, as he introduced. So I'm the co-founder and also the program and project director for the Ecumene Foundation. So just to give you kind of a quick glimpse of what we do for those who don't know, we focus on youth and women's empowerment currently in Ghana, and we do sustainable initiatives that are uniquely tailored to the different partners we have there. And we also use a lot of volunteer support to support our projects and also to inspire global citizenship among our volunteers. So we have different projects that focus on public health, access to quality education, food insecurity, women's vocational training, and there's some past and current. The current ones are our seamstress apprenticeship program. We have some public health efforts focused on clean water, hygiene, sanitation in a different village. And then we have our youth empowerment partnership with a children's home and school that we've been working with for about 3 years now. And so looking at all of that, the virus has definitely impacted us, and we've had different people asking us. So I'm excited to kind of share what that looks like for us here with you guys. So we have sent about 3 annual service learning trips. Actually, in partnership with Buck-I-SERV has been all of the trips for the past couple years. And we send them 2 in the summer and 1 in December. And the way I've kind of created the model for our foundation is a lot of our funding and in-country support outside of our Ghanaian staff that are there all the time is completely dependent on these service learning trips. And so this has been kind of a huge hit for the foundation, because for the first year since we started, we're not having any service learning trips. And so that has made us kind of rethink what is our funding model right now, and do we need to change that? And how do we currently support our partners while we don't have those funds from these trips that we had scheduled? So right now what that looks like is we're kind of just trying to maintain the projects that we have and the people we have enrolled in those projects. And we're cutting off any new enrollments for our women's program. And we're not doing any new projects for the time being. And then aside from that, we're just trying to focus on relief efforts. So fundraising money for food, soap, clean water. So that's kind of like the background on where we're at with the virus.
Thanks for sharing, Anna. Patrick, you want to go?
Hello, everyone. Patrick Fitzgerald, Rizoma Field School. We're in the western part of the South American country, Uruguay. And our field school, Rizoma Field School, we have kind of three branches of things that we do. First thing we do is research. Ashley is the co-founder. We're married. So husband and wife, it's only a two-person operation at this point. Ashley is a sociologist who studies environmental sociology, rural, and sociology of food, with a little bit of overlap into globalization and social movements. So we do research having to do with sustainable livelihoods. Ashley's dissertation, which is now being turned into a book, had to do with people doing subsistence food production in the Chicago, Illinois area when we lived there. We're from Chicago. She's also been doing research lately about bioconstruction and sustainable architecture, with the researching people who came to Uruguay to build a hotel with the Earthship organization out of New Mexico. So that's the research component. That hasn't been affected too much by the pandemic. In fact, it's been a bit of an uptick with meetings just like this one that Ashley's been attended. She seems like she has a phone call every other day or a Zoom meeting with different organizations that she's involved with in the academic world. The second thing, which is our connection with Buck-I-SERV, is the teaching. So we do the alternative service break trip. We did it in December of 2019. And that's again, the teaching component. We work with people in our area of Uruguay who are engaged in sustainable endeavors such as agroecology, small scale subsistence food production, and some commercial production as well as bioconstruction and other small projects. Like, for example, this year we worked with Santiago and Gabriela, some friends of ours who have their own library that is at the beach community near where we live. And so the outbreak has affected them probably more than any of our community partners, and because their kind of their activities revolve around having people meet together and having a public place where people get together, and that's kind of been a no-no as of late. Another thing that I wanted to mention was, as far as it has affected other community partners who engage in agriculture, if it's a commercial endeavor, it's still an essential industry, so that's life goes on as usual. It's also a low population density area, so it's not that dangerous to be out and about and be doing your outdoor work. And in the case of Martin and Paola, who are our friends who do mostly subsistence agriculture, selling what they have in surplus, that's probably been the people who are least affected by this pandemic outbreak. And this is something that we're actually interested in going forward. And Ashley's already talking about it in her academic circles as kind of an idea for what to push for, engage in post-pandemic, because it's kind of more of a pandemic-proof existence that doesn't rely upon really far-reaching supply chains, for example, or the formal economy, especially a globalized formal economy. So that's how I think I could say it's affected our community partners and in their day-to-day life. And the last thing that our organization is involved with is activism. So we're part of the networks such as the Rural Women's Group, Slow Food Uruguay, and the Agroecology Network. And that has been affected a little bit more than maybe somebody like one of our community partners who do mostly subsistence agriculture, because they haven't been able to organize the farmers markets quite as often. Some events have had to be canceled, and just meetings have to take place either on some kind of virtual platform like this. Yeah, that's been a big deal, because getting together and meeting with people is really an important part of social life, but also kind of in these activist and business or organizational life here in Uruguay. So I think that's the biggest way it's been affected.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Patrick. Diego has joined us. Welcome, Diego. Perfect timing. We were just going through how everyone, like a little bit of an introduction of yourself, your organization and the work that you do, and then kind of how COVID-19 has impacted your operations. I also know you shared some slides with me, so just let me know when you want me to share those on the screen. I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you, Connor. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Sorry for arriving late. I thought it would be at 1 p.m. here in Guatemala, so I was like, I don't know, panic a little bit. Anyways, thank you, guys. It's good to see friendly faces again. It's been a while, and I have not seen a lot of faces. So, yeah, my name is Diego. I'm a volunteer and social program coordinator in Constru Casa here in Guatemala, based in Antigua, Guatemala specifically. what we do is we try to improve and give a decent house to poor people or to people who has a very low income around Guatemala, around the country. We work in around 21 departments around Guatemala. Guatemala has 22 departments. Just to keep it like a little bit clear, departments here in Guatemala are like for US are states. So we call it departments. How the situation affect us after March 15 was in different levels. I would say that right now, Guatemala, for example, right now Guatemala has around 800 cases that are confirmed. From those cases, 689 are still active. From those 689, we have just almost 11 people who died and 35 people has recovered. No, sorry, 86. 35 are other number. 86 people. Since that Sunday, March 15, when the president declared a national quarantine, that affects us, all of us, all these kind of organizations here in Guatemala. All this because it was, for example, in Constru Casa, we focus in construction, right? So once that week, the president declared the quarantine in all the country, that means that you will not be able to go around the country and work like you used to work. Now you needed to have special permits and all. Then the thing that affects us a little bit more, not just to Constru Casa, to everyone who has a normal work, were all the new law. The new law on March 22nd was that there was a curfew time that started from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. Sorry, that started on March 22nd and stayed until half of April. So you can imagine almost a month without be able to construct anything, without be able to work from the office, without be able to not be contact donors or groups or anything. Personally, for example, in the area that I work in, Constru Casa, that week was kind of rough because just in about 2 or 3 days, around 8-10 groups canceled. From March to almost August, September. So that's how you can imagine the impact of this. The second part that affected us a little bit more was like the way that we can execute the money that we receive from all of you guys, from all the amazing friends and donors that we have all around the world. Because most of the money or the donation that we work with are all destined for construction, right? And because of the curfew time, we couldn't do it. So we couldn't execute the money. And that in that moment, then we were like with our hands tied up. We couldn't work. So the next part that we handle and we manage it was like how we can continue helping our families. Some of you guys that are watching this have already been here and already have an idea how the families lived here before you guys helped. With this, I want to make clear that imagine how the impact could it be to those families that you already helped when they used to have that old house. Now they have the house that you already built. So a lot of families still have the same situation. They still have the old brick house with all the metal sheet as a roof with a dirt floor and all. So the idea is like how we could manage it to continue helping those people that we could maybe not help them when it's about construction, but we could also try to give them some supplies. Supplies, why? Because the government here decide to help the poor people, but that poor people will not be able to get that help until they prove to the mayors of the city that they are located that they actually are part of the informal work. Here in Guatemala, just to give some number, the 75% of the economy in Guatemala, it's informal. So what that means that 75% of almost 10 million people who are active workers in Guatemala are working by no contract and working on the streets, are working by their own resources that they cannot prove actually if they can have an income or not. So imagine also the families that you helped, and they were farmers, they were masons, they will not be able to continue having the between 20, 50Q per week that they used to have for their families. And we are talking about families, the family members are around, if they are lucky, they have just five, they are just five. Normally they are around 8 or 10 members of the family. So just imagine this, in 2 months, all country were very affected, and Constru Casa knew it that we need to take a lot of projects going on. Since the beginning, 1 week before all this started, March 7, we started making some food programs and try to find some donations to be aware that and prepare that we could help and give some food to these people. That's what we've been doing, and that's how we're trying to continue making it, having these kind of webinars and a space to communicate that our donors, our friends, our volunteers, how they can continue help us. So basically, that's the first question, how this affected us from here in Guatemala.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. So now we're going to move into some prepared questions that we had. So you all actually shared kind of the first one about the biggest challenges you're facing and how you're approaching them. So I'm going to jump straight into the kind of the second question we had prepared. And for those of us who are joining us, remember you can still ask questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end of the prepared questions. Okay, so then the prepared question I'd like to ask is, looking toward the future, what is something you need to continue to move forward with your operations, and how can we, as Buck-I-SERV as an organization, or student participants, or just active citizens in general, support you in a socially distant or virtual way? Patrick, you want to get started?
Yes. Okay, so Ashley and I were talking about this. We thought it was a really good question, because obviously the biggest impact for the community partners we work with the Buck-I-SERV trip is being here and coming. So hopefully that gets to continue. But of course, you know, those restrictions, they're not up to any organization. They're much above our head and up to governments. But we were saying, well, what is the biggest thing then, absent being here and learning in person, which is preferential? And that's going to be sharing knowledge and sharing resources. And if it's got to be exclusively remotely, at least it's important, I think, for students, undergrad students, even if you think like, I'm just an undergrad student at an American university, you've got a lot more reach and a lot more of like a megaphone, as the word that Ashley was using with me, than some people in our community do. So you have maybe you have somewhat of a social media presence. Maybe you're involved in other campus organizations. Maybe you're involved in other organizations or businesses outside of your university. But just to kind of share knowledge about the things that we are doing in this area, the thing that people that we work with are doing, or ideas that might make things easier for them. And the examples, like, it's just so many, but yeah, just sharing those resources and letting people know about other work that other people are doing in different parts of the world. Because we at Rizoma, we view this small part of Uruguay as kind of like a node among many places in the world that are doing things to adjust and to react to difficult circumstances just before this extra big global emergency occurred. That was kind of what Ashley's research focused on and learned when she got into talking to people about what got them into doing food gardening for themselves and doing subsistence food production in the United States context. A lot of them responded with, 2008 financial crash was a big factor, for example. So seeing how people react to these things and seeing what people are doing in many parts of the world, not just our own backyard, your backyard, someplace in Africa, someplace in Europe, someplace in a city, in a rural area, in a suburban place, in different contexts. Just let that information be widely disseminated, and we can learn from each other. And this is the reason that we, way long ago, picked the name Rizoma for our school. It's the idea of spreading out these networks that are more horizontal and not so top down, where we have somebody, let's say, a typical university type. If you use the example of extension programs from land-grant universities in the U.S., the researchers do the research and they tell you, okay, here's what you have to do to make things work better. And it's very top-down and it's very kind of authoritative, and it's not much of a conversation. It's not a bunch of independent nodes working together. And I think that's what our organization likes to be, wants to be, and that's the kind of information we want to spread. So to answer your question, sharing that information horizontally across many different groups, formal organizations, individual citizens, businesses, whatever it might be, governments, and it could be a departmental level government, a state government, or a national government, which has a chance in smaller countries. But share that information and get the word out and do what you can to make these practices more known.
Thank you, Patrick. Hannah, you want to go next?
Sure. So in terms of what you guys can do to support us, obviously the big one, like funding is our biggest obstacle. We're a small foundation. Francis and I do the majority. Francis is the other co-founder. We do the majority of the work. And so we're really grassroots. So right now we're thinking about how can we pay staff? How can we maintain projects and keep expanding with the goals that we have? So donations, we are doing a fundraiser right now. We have a fundraiser that we just posted just to do immediate relief. We are struggling to ask people for anything more than just like relief focused on the virus, because we're having these ethical dilemmas on what do you ask for when really the world is needing to focus on health right now. So that's what our fundraiser is focused on. And then we're going to focus on using our funding outside of that to keep our staff maintained. And obviously we're hopeful again that the trips will continue with Buck-I-SERV, but we'll take care of that in the future when that comes. Right now we're really just looking at how can we be creative in the time that we aren't focused on volunteers being abroad. And so another way that we can be supported is through interning with us. We've had a lot of students intern with us, and you may think as a student, you don't have that much to contribute because you're still in undergrad or you're in grad school. But I started this foundation when I was in undergrad as a student, and your expertise, what you're learning, it can definitely contribute to us. In small ways, we're working on stuff that we don't normally have time to focus on during the summer. So we have lots of projects across different, you could say, like careers or disciplines that you guys might be focused on that we could probably pull you into to help us out. So not just financial, but also in that way. And then I also forgot to mention, we have an Etsy shop for the foundation. So if you know people who like getting something for their donation and don't just want to give money, you can look up the foundation on Etsy, and we have different products that are made by our women in our seamstress program that we have. And so all those donations give back to the foundation and give us some funding to support what we currently have going on.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Hannah. And Diego, would you like to go? And Diego, would you like me to share my screen for the slides?
No, I'm thinking. I think, well, I will just do it by myself. But thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the space again. Yeah. The best way to say this, it will be like the idea of service. It needs to always stay there. A lot of people always focus in, and I have a lot of questions. This not just from people from Costa Rica, but also friends around the world that tell me like, hey, would you advise me to help and all? I would say these days, if something is right now proving this virus and all, is that we need to actually appreciate the people that we have around and how we actually can help. The service need to continue being spreading. We need to continue sharing it, and most important, we need to actually make it happen. Talking about how you can continue helping Costa Rica, how you can continue being a volunteer from other places that you cannot actually be here building. Well, always, I would say first, spread the word. If you are someone who already came to Guatemala, who already have the experience, you can continue spreading the word and saying, hey, you know, when I was in Guatemala, I saw this, the family live in this condition, I know what it feels. And maybe I did not live it with them all the time, but I spent a week with them, and the family are very humble and all, and they actually are in need to this kind of help. A lot of people are asking me, hey, but I cannot give you a donation for the house. It doesn't matter, because any donation at this moment, it will help enough to bring food, to continue another building and all. For example, you cannot donate, I don't know, for example, our little houses, small houses, like $3,500. But you can donate $200, for example. Those $200 can go to $200 that we have from all the donors, and we can actually all put together, and all of you can actually help that one family can have a decent home during these conditions. That's the thing. Just by continue talking with your friends, just by continue talking with your parents, with your teachers, with your neighbors, every person that you can actually share this, it's a new opportunity that you can actually bring some food to someone's table in Guatemala or in around the world. It doesn't matter. So I would say this time right now is about that we all work together, and we can make it a difference. We can actually prove everyone that the service time, it's right now going up. We cannot just stop. We cannot think that we can just work or help after this situation ends, because let's face it, the truth, the situation, it will not end. It will continue, and it change already everything. So we need to adapt to new ways to how we can continue service. So the best example, it would be that you cannot continue making the difference by sharing your ideas, sharing your advices, sharing with us, everyone who can bring a new opportunity to help Casa, to any other good organization, can actually bring not just an opportunity, but also a new solution to continue all of us working as human beings and working as an intelligent society. That's the thing. We can actually work together. So if you were here before in Guatemala, you know the truth, you know how the reality, you know how the families are living here, and you know right now they cannot actually go out and work to give food to all the families. So the best way right now is just giving your advices, donate whatever you can, doesn't matter. Any help is welcome. And if you actually want to continue doing any other professional work or experience or volunteering from far away, you can actually do it. You're welcome. Just let me know, and will be so glad and grateful to receive your advice or your help by any other way. So yes, basically, resuming my question, my answer, it will be that. Don't think that you cannot continue helping. Service can continue happening, and you can continue making the difference to everyone else.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. Really appreciate it. And for those of you who are on the call, and for our community partners as well, we're planning on sending out a little something to kind of gather all of these resources into one place, whether they be donation links or other things. Patrick, what's up?
Thanks, Connor. Sorry, one thing I forgot to mention, talking about what else we can be doing. Hannah mentioned that, I believe, the internship idea. We're actually going to have a virtual intern for the first time ever. And that, if that's something that works out, we have to see how it works, if it's actually helpful for us or for the intern. That's another thing we would be interested in doing going forward. I just wanted to reiterate and agree with that point. That was a great point. But really this, I think Buck-I-SERV, it helps the people who go on the trips become really competent at having conversations about what you saw, what you learned, and what you experienced and what you lived. And then sharing those things with other people, whatever platform you have to share it, that is really the big thing. And so yeah, just reiterating that and mentioning that other thing that I forgot to mention.
Thanks, Patrick. But yeah, so we'll collect all these resources into one place, hopefully from all the community partners who we talked to this week, as well as any other community partners who want to share. So for those of you who are still interested in serving virtually, whether that's an internship or a donation or sharing information with others, that those resources will be available for you. Okay, so jumping to the next question. So our Buck-I-SERV motto is travel, learn, serve, and obviously the travel part is kind of impossible right now. But we're thinking, about still learning and serving because we think we can still continue to do that in this time. What's maybe a resource that you all can share, like an article or a book, podcast, video, whatever, that you found very helpful, either focused on kind of the social issues that you work with, or, just in general in continuing to focus on work at this time. Anything that you have that may provide some context on that. Diego, would you like to get started?
Yes. I would like to, thank you. I would say that the best idea that I can share with you guys that you want to continue be aware what's happening in Guatemala, how you can continue being in the news. Sadly, Guatemala has not a lot of resources in English. But I can also suggest some in Spanish, and maybe you can also kill two birds in one shot. Just be informed and also practice your Spanish. So I can suggest some good and professional, very good websites that they have always a new update every night about the cases and all. So if you want to try, I can suggest those websites, or also if it's kind of hard for some word, just ask me and I will be more than glad to translate it for you. It doesn't matter. Yes, I will say if you want to actually try to for a book, I would say it doesn't all book, and I will suggest this, and I will explain it why. But I will say the name first. I will say try the book of the Prince of Machiavelli. Why I will say this? Because right now you will understand a lot of what's happening, not just in Guatemala, about what's happening around the world. How the political power it's being so influenced in all this kind of situation, and how the society is being influenced positively or negative in this kind of situation. Once you understand that book, you can actually apply that knowledge in the situation right now, because you will be able to understand how all the human being are being in improving tests right now, if they can actually help because they want to help and they have that service thing that we were talking before, or you can understand that there's another part of the society that they just are showing the true nature that in this book Machiavelli said the human being is selfish by nature. So you can actually put a debate there and share some arguments, and if you want to also fight with arguments against that book, I would say you can also read from Thomas Rousseau about what he said on his book that he put the argument against Machiavelli, no, the society is not the human is not corrupt by nature. The society corrupts the human being. So I will put these situations in what's happening right now in the COVID-19, because it's very interesting also the different societies all around the world, how they are reacting, how they are actually thinking about it. So those are my two advices, maybe three, because the Spanish information that I can share with you guys. But I would say what happened in Guatemala is very interesting, because the government, for example, right now, if you go to the government web pages, you will see, it's doing an amazing job. It's amazing that we are one of the less countries with less cases and all. But if you go to other websites that actually are doing the research, you will actually see, okay, for sure, you cannot actually have a lot of cases when you actually just do 50 proofs per day. So when you have a population of 18 million people, so that's the thing. So I will invite you everyone to do this kind of research, and if you have any questions, for sure, we'll share the website that I was talking about, so you can have a specific idea of what is the situation in Guatemala and Central America.
Awesome. Thanks, Diego. Patrick, you want to go ahead?
Yes, before I start, hello, Jen and Libby, Rachel, Rainier, how you guys doing? Thanks for joining us. So two resources that I wanted to share specifically have to do with things that we like to work with here in our school and with our community partners. The first one has to do with agriculture, and a person working he lives in southwest Wisconsin, I believe, and he's got a farm called Mastodon Valley Farm. So I don't know if there's any way, I have a link, but if you can't share the link or anything, there's no chat box or anything.
We'll follow up and send it to everyone.
So I'll get you those links. But a man named Peter Allen at Mastodon Valley, he's actually was a wildlife ecologist who then got into agriculture, studying the history of agriculture from an ecological and like kind of like a integrated way with wildlife, and is doing holistic grazing with I think just cattle now, but I think he's got other animals as well. So animal agriculture sometimes gets just identified as only a problem when in fact there's lots of really good promising things happening with regenerative agriculture, especially with grazing ruminants and other cyclical practices. So that's a really kind of like a overwhelmingly impressive guy who comes from a different discipline, is now in agriculture, and the stuff that he's putting out there is really interesting and worth looking at. The other woman is a woman named Juliet Shore, who has this idea of the plenitude economy. And the plenitude economy is much more holistic way of thinking about how economic and social organization could change or could adapt going forward, as the way that we do things nowadays shows a lot of cracks in the armor and just not much promise for the future if you're talking about making the world on a social, economic, or environmentally biosphere way a livable place. So that's going to be another resource that I would point you to. I think they're pretty relevant, both of them, especially the Juliet Shore thing in the wake of how we see the big economic structures and social structures with public institutions of government and business and the relationships between nations, et cetera, kind of showing a lot of shortcomings and deficiencies in a big global emergency. So Peter Allen, Mastodon Valley, and Juliet Shore, Plenitude Economy.
Excellent. Thanks, Patrick. Anna, you want to go ahead?
Yes. All right. So I kind of just made a list of a few things. In general, follow the foundation we have Facebook, Instagram, and we try and not only highlight what we're doing, but share work of other people that are focused on similar issues. So you may find interesting resources that we share that's not even just about what we're doing on there. One of my favorite websites to follow is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They talk about a lot of different social justice issues that some of us are focused on, but they just give a lot of good information. They have an annual letter that Bill and Melinda Gates write every year. They kind of choose the theme, but again, it's focused on a lot of different global development stuff tied into their work, and they provide a lot of research and data. And so I think they're really good science-based information to get resources from. If you don't know what the global goals are from the United Nations, just in general, I recommend, if you're interested in international work, look up the global goals, get familiar with that, because a lot of organizations, small or large, base their work off of that. An interesting TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story by Chimamanda Adichie. It's a little bit older now, but it's something every single volunteer who goes through our program, I ask them to watch it, and it's something we talk about in our service learning trips. Look up articles on volunteerism in general. Those are things that our volunteers are asked to do, because it kind of gives you a perspective on how to be a responsible global citizen and not, even if we have positive intentions as volunteer programs, how we can also be damaging. And so it kind of helps you check yourself and try and build your programs around a more responsible model. And then a couple books I love reading. It's been something I've been trying to do during this quarantine. The White Man's Burden is a book that I think is really good for people interested in international development. And it doesn't matter the social justice issue you're focused on. It kind of talks about a lot of different things. Half the Sky is another book focused on women's empowerment issues, domestic and global. And then A Path Appears is another book that focuses on a variety of social justice issues. So again, if you're not interested in what the foundation's doing, you can probably connect to something they're talking about. And it's good because it focuses on mistakes and also successes. So those are just kind of a handful of things. I'll give those names and links to Connor so he can get those to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. A wide variety of resources that I think are valuable in a lot of different contexts, and thank you all for sharing those. Okay, so the last prepared question we have for today. So on a kind of more positive, hopeful note, what is something you've had the ability to change or adapt during this time? So maybe like a small success or a little win, or something uplifting or wholesome or positive that you all have been able to experience or hear about. Hannah, you want to start us off? Hannah, are you having some tech issues?
Hannah, you're muted.
You're muted.
Thanks. So I kind of mentioned this before, but I think one of the most positive things that has come out of this for us is really just having our minds clear as a foundation team, to think more broad scale on what we're doing and what we can be investing our time in, since we don't have service trips right now, because those really just take up the majority of our brain power in the summer. And so right now we're looking at 3 months of work that we normally wouldn't be being as creative in, because we already kind of have our planned out stuff. So it's been exciting to connect with different past volunteers and our current interns to figure out what are their passions, how are they going to connect us to the foundation, and how can we have something constructive that benefits the foundation for them to work on.
Excellent. Thanks, Hannah. Patrick, you want to go next?
Yeah. So, some good things that have been happening in the community, aside from the fact that I think there was a lot of, though the government restrictions were not actually that harsh early on in the outbreak, I liked that the people in our area, just in general, were taking it seriously enough to be cautious and like to help not spread. And I think, to our credit, even though we have a decent population pretty close to where the biggest outbreak is, there's only 2 current cases in our whole department, which is really promising. But also some of the things that were interrupted, I mentioned before, like the farmers market with the agroecology producers. Since they weren't able to do these in-person meetup things, they did take that pretty well over to the virtual realm, where there was a way to share like seed bank trading, and also people who had seedlings or plants for food gardens to set those things up to request if they wanted one, and then people would just drop them off at the centralized location. You can come pick them up. So they did a good job of adapting just to not have big gatherings. The Slow Food Uruguay organization set up some families with food gardens who were interested in having them, like some lower income families, and got some donations from people in their network. The grocery stores in the area, one of which is an agricultural co-op. There's actually 2 of them within about 10 minutes of here. They set up donation baskets, simply just had a shopping cart saying donation if you wanted to buy something, and donate to people who were particularly at risk. And they were also organizing giveaways, just kind of raffles. For example, they gave me a ticket when I check out at the grocery store, and they said, here's your ticket, you can put your name in the hat, but if you win, you have to donate a quarter of what you win to charity. And I said, fine with me. And then personally, our daughter was born on March 27th in that room right across the hall from me, in our house. And that was really cool to see that we had planned to have her be born at home. But it was really nice to see that even though it's in the middle of a crisis, it's still not like a limitation to not just live, but to thrive. Like, that was really kind of empowering. And it was like a happy confirmation of the idea that if you have like a resilient social or community structure in place, that you can thrive in the midst of a crisis, as opposed to just get by. And that was really happy. It was, that's our 3rd daughter. That's our last one. And it was the greatest experience as far as the birth experience went. She's super laid back, and I think it has something to do with the fact that she was born at home, and I was born at home in 1985, believe it or not. And it's been really good to see her and get to spend a lot of time with her and adjust, even though we can't be among our friends and doing the things that we're used to quite as much. So I think that's about it. Thanks for letting me talk.
Cool. Thanks, Patrick, and congratulations. All right, Diego, you want to round us out?
Yes, thank you. Congratulations, Patrick. That was a nice story. Well, I would say story of success in Guatemala, I will divide in three maybe. I will be like how the population right now is doing, and then how Costa Casa, and then it will be a personal one. The first one, I would say like the good part of all this is that Guatemala people actually, they were always taking serious the situation since almost the first day. They understood the consequence of this, and a lot of different mayors made the good decision to lock down all the place, and you cannot leave the place. For example, right now in Guatemala, from the 22 departments, 4 departments are fully locked down. Right? That means that you cannot leave or enter that place without any specific reason. If you need to, you need to have a special letter from the government or from your work that you actually can. You need to leave the city. For example, I'm stuck in Antigua. I cannot see family, friends, anyone. So the thing is like the society of Guatemala have been trying and donating things, doesn't matter the situation that they are passing through. That means like private companies, just little small restaurants and all are giving food and giving all the supplies that they can to homeless people, to people who cannot actually pay for it. There's a system here from the government that if you actually cannot afford any food, you need to go out on the street with a white flag and show it. So the government will know that your family or the situation that you are passing through is that it's hard, and the government will bring you some supplies, or people will bring you some supplies. This is something very nice and good, because actually you can see that a lot of teamwork from the society and from the different individuals that are actually getting involved in this. So that will be from the society and government. From the Constru Casa, what we've been successful in doing is like all this food program has been successful enough to show the people that we are continue with you, that our mission and our vision continue there, and we are not actually stopping anything because this situation. And also the good communication with our donors and ex-volunteers is continue being there. So that's something that we are very glad and happy that they, from both sides, we are continue in this situation together. That we may be not close, like in face to face in person, but we can continue being helping and in touch and trying to ask how you can help, because this is also from our side. We ask our ex-volunteers, our donors, and everyone that we can we have some contact before about how we can actually help, or how are they, because we worry about our friends and all the people that we work with. So that will be a successful story from here. And the personal one, it will be that I might be locked down here, but it's very nice to, when you go out and you can just share some of your supplies with the people around Antigua. That when you see the homeless people here, and actually you are giving the old people that you see feeding the pigeons, for example, in Antigua, and you actually know that there's a lot of hot weather, because there's summer here, and you can imagine how hot it is. So you can actually give some of your supplies here, and that's something that is feel grateful, because people are not waiting for it, and you are not actually waiting for, oh, I will look for some homeless people around. There's just something that you can see from myself, from other people, that is a feeling that is in everyone, all of us right now, that we can try to give something without looking for any reward back. We can just feel the empathy between all of us, because all of us are in the same situation. I have 2 nephews that are teenagers, and you can imagine the teenagers right now locked down. They cannot go out, they cannot anything. And I've been trying to Skyping with them every day that I can, try to reach out with them and trying to tell them, hey guys, I know this is hard, but you can actually just try to focus in your languages. Right now, the amazing kids are studying 4 languages, so that's great. And those are the things that all the situations are good and are happening in Guatemala and in the world in general, because I would say everyone is looking for a way to continue being in contact, being in action, and keep in mind and body busy. That's the most important. Not being like just aware that you need to continue working in what you like and how you can make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for sharing. And thank you all for sharing those like beautiful moments of like human connection that we still need to find in these days. I really appreciate what you said, Patrick, about learning how to thrive and not just survive when it comes to this. So thank you all for sharing. We don't have much time left, but Rebecca, is there anything we could get to quickly in the Q&A?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions there. Diego, one really quickly for you, just for everyone's reference that's here in the Zoom room. We had a group, Buck-I-SERV group that was in Guatemala with Contra Casa in March as everything sort of deteriorated when it came to travel. How did that impact our group that was on the ground there with you? Were they able to complete what they were working on that week? Was there anything you had to alter? If you have a couple of quick thoughts.
All right, yes. I would say that was a very interesting first experience because we never expected this. But however, like I mentioned, Contra Casa, we were aware that this situation could happen. And the group actually, they took it very, very, very calm down. The guides were amazing. That was actually a very good group. The last one, they were very solidary, they were very empathy, and they were always trying to not focusing about the situation. We were hearing in the news how all the countries around us were starting to lock down in that moment, because that was the moment when airports are starting to control the flights and all, and they were kind of aware of what the situation will be if they're going to stay stuck in Guatemala or not. But however, even if that situation was about to happen or could happen, they were like, no, we continue working. We want to continue working. We want to continue finish the house and all. And Contra Casa was always trying to keep in touch with them even at night. So we knew that how they were feeling, how they were like, if they were under control or they were kind of actually feeling anxious or anything. But no, that group was amazing. They were always with this feeling to continue helping. The family that they helped, they are completely safe. They were so happy with the new house. And so at the end, with all the situation, we barely felt it like something to alarm us, but at the same time, we were aware, and it never stopped us. We were always trying to finish and continue the mission that you guys were coming from, and from our side, the mission that to make us feel safe and the mission complete.
Yeah, thank you. I know it just was a crazy time on both sides. So we were glad that we got the group back here the day and a half before the borders closed and the flights all closed, and we're glad you took care of them for that week. The other question that's here may be a little involved for the time that we have left. Patrick, I think it's kind of directed toward you. The question is asking about coronaviruses and how they spread amongst livestock and poultry animals, and how might that impact the diet or the practice of eating meat, I guess, in these respective communities, and what are some solutions that students could have in these communities, and some of the stuff that you talked about with agribusiness. Maybe if we can direct that to you really quickly.
Yeah, I don't really know much. I know I've been following as far as how these things spread among animals and between animals to humans, etc. But as far as this area, I have not seen any reports that that's anything to be concerned about in this agricultural production region, whether through livestock or chickens or egg farms. There's a couple egg farms right down the road from here. I have not heard anything or seen any reports in the Uruguay news about there being any higher risk for that.
Hey, Hannah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Hannah, really quickly, have you heard, are the markets open? Has that changed at all, or did you hear anything from our partners there?
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that. I had that jotted down. So initially, like all of last month, they had done lockdowns on different cities and towns and restricted where you can travel to. So the markets were impacted. We had donated like 1,000 masks to one of the local clinics in the towns that we work in. And we actually had trouble for like a week of just trying to pick them up because they came from Accra, the capital, and we're a couple hours from there. So Prince, our Ghana country director, has told me things are a little bit easier. He's been traveling around for us. But at first, yeah, it was hard at first. They were worried about food insecurity because markets were pretty unstable as to if they were going to stay open or not. But from what I'm understanding, they're opening back up. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you all for answering those very specific questions. What's up, Nick?
Rachel, that last question, I have not heard of any shortages of mate, so for now we're looking pretty good because it mostly comes from Brazil. The Brazilian border is closed for things that not related to commerce. Trucks are still coming across the border, so we're looking good for the moment.
Awesome. Okay, I just had a really quickly wanted to share just a couple more things before we close out today. Just one thing. So the We Are Here For You page from Office of Student Life, for anyone who's struggling during this COVID-19 pandemic, it offers a lot of different resources for students and faculty and staff, whether that's mental health or wellness or financial wellness. So if you're really struggling with a certain aspect right now, OSU Student Life is here to assist you. So please check out that page. In addition, our friends over in the Fisher College of Business are holding a socially responsible leadership volunteering during COVID-19 webinar in a couple weeks. So I encourage you to check that out. We've worked with the Fisher College of Business for a number of years now with their Fisher Cares, which is like their volunteer arm. And so we really like the work that they do and enjoyed them as a campus partner. And so definitely encourage you to check that out. I know I will be. Finally, our socially distant service page for Pay It Forward. So they have put together, like we were planning on as well, a number of different opportunities within the Columbus community that you can do to support virtually or socially distancing for Columbus organizations that they've worked with. So I'd encourage you to do that and check that out when you get the time. And finally, just thank you all for joining. Thank you all to all of our wonderful panelists. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day and really, really love getting to hear all of the stories and how you all are working with this. So definitely stay in touch. We'll be reaching out and sending out resources and continuing to do the best work we can from this virtual space. But thank you all, and everyone have a great afternoon.